How to deconstruct from the fear of going to hell. For those who have been a part of any religion, there is generally some type of damnation or annihilation that any person would have to face if they ever strayed from that religion. And when those of us who have deconstructed from those religions, especially Christianity in this case, the fear of hell is the most lingering thing that keeps us from fully being able to deconstruct from the religion. Now, many people will say that just the mere fact that you can intelligently know that hell does not exist is enough that a person should be able to deconstruct from that fear of hell, but it's not quite that simple. And I get this question quite often. You see, deconstructing from something that you have been taught to fear your entire life, that has the most fear prompts than anything else, is incredibly difficult because it has embedded itself in so many aspects of who you are and in so many points of attack towards you. You see, if people actually realize that you are in fear of the hell of heaven far less than you are in fear of the hell of hell, and so you warp the mindset into thinking that you love heaven, that you love whatever deity or God that you believe in. Try this experiment. Find any child who is 5, 6 years old and they believe in heaven, and ask them about going to heaven and worshiping day and night. That according to the book of Revelations, that you will be in this heaven worshiping God day and night continuously. Ask that child, is that their idea of heaven? Would they be happy in such environment? Now then ask that same child, what would be their perception of heaven? If they can make heaven whatever they want, what would that heaven be? They would probably have ice creams and roller coasters and toys and all their family there and loving each other. And this is the doctrine that some people are taught as small children, that you'll see your family there, that y'all will be getting along. Irenaeus actually said that one of the pleasures of heaven is being able to look over the edge of heaven and see all those people suffering in hell. But a child would think of heaven as some great, grand, glorious place. But then if you tell them that heaven is praising this God day in and day out, 24/7, they would not see that as heaven. But when you explain to them the torments of hell, that as the same way that the beast and his prophet will be thrown into the lake of fire, and all of those who do not believe in this Jesus character, which is in your book of Revelations, says that those people as well will be thrown into this lake of fire, whether it is through annihilation when they reach that lake of fire or through eternal torment. Either way, that is a greater fear than the fear of having to worship all day. At least you're not burning. At least you're not feeling the flames and the torment or having your skin peel back, depending upon what religion you believe in. So it's a tolerable hell. No child would want that. Yet your books say, come to me like little children. But a little child would never run to either one of those if they had the choice. If there's a third choice, they would take the third choice. So when it comes to deconstructing from the fear of hell, it encompasses more than just fear, and it encompasses more than just intelligence. It encompasses even more than just knowing the information to which you know. Because getting over that fear of hell and deconstructing from it requires you to also get over your fears, get over your guilt, get over your shame, and get over your grief. And those things are the most difficult things for people to have to deal with. If you fear hell, but you recognize that hell doesn't exist, then you can somewhat get past your fear. But the guilt that has been laid on you for not worshiping this God or that God, or the guilt of not acting and living in a certain way so that this God is pleased, that guilt carries on you to say that if I walk away from this God, you are carrying the guilt of disappointing your family. You're carrying the guilt of the mistakes that you have made in your life. That guilt will still cause you to have issues with walking away. And when you then look at the shame that guilt creates, because now you start to identify with that guilt and you begin to exhibit traits that are part of that guilt. This is the same way a person becomes a psychopath or a serial killer, is that they continue to repeat and repeat and repeat the same practices that gave them that fear, that gave them that guilt. There was a fear of not being loved. There was a fear of not being cherished. That fear caused them to act in a certain way that took someone's life, or that took someone's privilege to be able to live happily, and they essayed them or did something negative. And that guilt that they feel becomes their shame, and then they repeat that guilt, feeling that they are addicted to it and somehow derive some warped pleasure from it. But yet that shame still exists within them when they're alone at night and they're thinking about it, or I should say alone in their mind, and they're thinking about it. They know truly it is not a pleasurable thing, because it is still wrapped in guilt and shame. And because they know what they've done to themselves and they know what they've done to other people, they then grieve the loss of other people. And the most important thing that they grieve is the loss of themselves. And when they're grieving, and when you're grieving that loss of yourself, it allows for that connection to you believing in the deeper recesses of your mind that you are deserving of annihilation. You are deserving of the lake of fire. You are not deserving of bounty and bliss. You are not deserving of continuing your journey of exploring higher and higher consciousness, higher and higher levels of existence, where the petty things that we deal with of fleshly bodies don't exist there. Certainly, there will still be other challenges in every existence, as there is no such thing as good that is all good, as just as much as there is no such thing as evil that is all evil. One of the simplest ways of understanding that concept is the fact that murderers have children that they love and will die for the love of their children, yet they murdered someone else. It's a twisted cycle. But when you learn through meditation to let go of your fears, and knowing that your fears are things that may have happened or may not ever happen, and that there's no need to worry or be concerned about them, and you realize that the mistakes you've made in life are just mistakes, but you forgive yourself for those mistakes, and then recognize that through your forgiveness you learn from those mistakes and you grow from those mistakes, and you become a different person each time you've learned and grown from those mistakes, and you're raising your consciousness each time you learn and grow from those mistakes. You stop feeling ashamed of it, because you know those things are not you. You may have been a cheater or a scammer or an abuser in the past, and even though the world wants to hold that against you, you stop holding it against yourself, and you become a new person, and you don't care what other people think, because what you think is what matters. And you build your mind and your heart, your emotions strong enough to not accept what other people are trying to place on you. And when you do that, then there is no you to grieve. When you've wronged others and you have changed, and you may have asked for forgiveness, but they are unwilling, you recognize you've done your part, and you move on with your life, because you cannot force anyone else to do anything. Because your process of thinking of who you are and emotionalizing who you are and loving who you are and loving the new you that you are allows you to get away from the concepts of grief and anger and hate and the shame and guilt and the fear. And then you no longer fear hell, because you recognize that there is no place for hell for you to go, because you are now deserving of continuing your journey. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey.